Okay. Mrs. Hogan, all set? Okay. Okay, just a few routine items that we have to approve. Just need a motion to accept the minutes of the regular meeting on February 11. Accept and order file the minutes of the Committee on Special Education for the dates listed. And accept and order file the minutes of the Committee on Preschool Special Education for the dates listed. Do we have a motion? You're so far away, I couldn't hear you. Seconded by?
Second.
Crystal, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Okay. Anybody for public comments? Mr. Shaw? Okay. Superintendent's report. Mr. Ward.
Yeah, so new this month, we're going to start with our student liaisons reporting out to us. We did take the same kind of functionality that the board members do with their committees. We met yesterday as a small committee, so it was me and Mrs. Hogan and our two student liaisons. They've got quite a list, and there is a link to it in there for you as well. So I'll turn it over to both of you. And will you, Mike, will you help them with, hold on one second, with your mic on and...
Okay, so we just have a couple of things that students will be participating in that we think that you guys may be interested in. We have rummage sales for foreign language students, which that happens Saturday. Yeah, so that happened Saturday, and it helped them raise money for their trips. Spanish Club is selling pulseras, I think that's how you pronounce that, which will fund their club things. Our students, all our language students, are doing the Culture Fair on March 28th. It's a really fun event that you can go to. They make food, and they do, like, you can throw tomatoes at people sometimes, and there's paint, and you learn a ton. It's really cool. I'm not participating this year, but I participated in the past 2 years we've done it. It was so cool. Our foreign language students, lots of them, are going on their trip from April 10th to the 19th in Spain and France. I'm not going, but I'm very excited for everybody. That sounds like a cool opportunity. Our spring musicals are coming up. We are doing Bye Bye Birdie. Many students from, I know the high school and middle school. I'm not sure if we dabbled into intermediate this year or primary, but lots of students, they would love if you bought tickets, went to support. You can do that one.
Our science research program is attending the Greater Capital Region Science and Engineering Fair this Saturday, and this Wednesday, tomorrow at 2:30, teachers are going to watch seniors present their posters and ask questions to them, and you're all welcome to join at 2:30 in Mr. Bartuli's room. I forgot the number. There's a primary school science fair coming up where the Science NHS goes around and gives kids awards for their participation and for their awesomeness in science. And we just did a science night where the high school SNHS and NHS went and did a bunch of sciencey activities with the kids, and they all really loved it.
Spring sports are about to start up. I'm assuming we'll hear a little bit about that, judging on the crowd we have here tonight. The gym lights are being updated to LEDs this week, so none of us are in the gymnasium. We are in the wrestling room and fitness center, just doing like backyard games. It's fun. We have LEAP on there, which I'm not really familiar with LEAP, but that was something on our calendar that I thought would be important for people who are familiar.
Yep, it's a job fair for our students that comes in. We did it last year as well, so thanks to the high school folks and the counselors for putting that together.
I think tomorrow, I don't have this on here, but tomorrow at SUNY Adirondack, there's a Women's in Trade event. I don't really know if we participate in that, but I know that I am there because I'm there during that period, but that is tomorrow. I forgot about that. We have this Friday, Superintendent's Day for students. I hope you all know that. It'd be really bad if you don't. St. Baldrick's Day is coming up.
April 4th.
And then on the 27th, we were green for Mrs. Bishop's daughter and a 2014 graduate. Miss Bishop's actually a very good friend of my mom, so that was very nice, and she very much appreciated everybody's support. And ECCA signups for anybody with students who are sophomores or no sophomores who may be interested in teaching IT, advanced manufacturing, new media, or business. That's something that you should have a conversation with your children or students with, because it's a great opportunity. So I think that's all we have on our list.
It's a good list, lots of good things. And so thanks to both Kennedy and Jacoby. They're doing an awful lot. They're busy young people, and they came in yesterday completely prepared to run their meeting with me, so I was very appreciative of that. They were well organized. They made their own Google Doc. Then they shared it with Mrs. Hensel, so that it was just very, very seamless. So thank you for your efforts and for reporting out. I don't know if anybody has questions for them from the board.
I just have one thing to add, aside from, I think you guys are filling it, man. The thing I wanted to mention was that the fun fair for the primary school is coming up, and you guys seem like students who would be in organizations that have volunteer hours, and they always need more volunteers. So anybody watching at home or any students who want to go have super fun on a Sunday for 4 hours, I'll be there all 4 hours. So no dunk tank this year, but that's all right. So, spread the word to your friends if they're looking for something to get them some hours.
Awesome.
Great job.
So I'm going to switch the order. I'm going to go to the athletic presentation, because we do have a couple of students here too, and we're trying to be mindful of their time, everybody's time, but certainly their time. The students have an awful lot going on, and try to get them home at a reasonable hour. So we'll turn it over to Mr. Carpenter.
PE and health, not athletics, right? PE and health, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry. PE and health, yes.
I'll grab my other slide notes.
No.
So I can hit anything else? No.
Sorry,
As long
Mr.
as you get a green light there, you're okay. Just a square button.
Just hold that button.
Hold it till it comes on, and then.
And just tell me when you want to advance, I'll play that.
Yep, all right. Thank you, everybody, for providing the opportunity for me to come here and speak tonight about our phys ed and health department. Thank you for my guest speakers for coming here tonight. They'll speak in a little bit. And Jacoby, thank you for the shout out and about the classes going on in the wrestling room and fitness center here this week. Mike, I'm good. So a few things that I'll talk about, just some key updates in physical education and health, more particularly the new learning standards that have been implemented over the last couple of years, some new personnel that we have here in the district, the changes that the new learning standards have had on the impact and the development of our curriculum, addressing some post-COVID challenges that we had. It was 5 years ago, and I'll just touch on it briefly, and then highlight some electives that we have and the curriculum mapping that we have for our well-rounded program, and some future goals and next steps that we have as a department. So some new personnel that we've had over the last few years, Doug Johnson and Jack Fallon, currently in their first year here. Doug is actually a Hudson Falls alumni. Doug's teaching some middle school health, and then here for the high school PE in the afternoon. Also was an assistant football coach and is taking on the head varsity baseball coach position this spring. Jack is at the middle school building full-time doing health and PE. Jack coached modified soccer, modified basketball. He's working with the AAU this spring. Both doing a great job in their first year. They were at the dodgeball tournament last week. They come to games, they help out with other coaches. Kirsten is in her second year. Last year she did primarily health. When Trish Tenike left this year, she filled that role and certainly has a big shoes to fill, and she's done a great job so far taking on the full-time PE at the middle school. Another one coaching two sports. She was an assistant for the girls tennis team in the fall, coaches the girls modified lacrosse. It was a big part last year in boosting those participation numbers, getting a lot of girls from the middle school out, and we're seeing some great numbers right now with the registration. So she's doing a great job. She also is an advisor for the ski club in the winter. Chris Dewey, who I have here tonight, although an experienced teacher, bringing a decade of experience here, this is his third year teaching high school PE full-time, and was a big part in implementing our zero block a few years ago. Assistant football coach, might not come to as many sporting events as I do, but he's pretty close, coming here to support the kids, and, he has chaperoned homecoming. I think he's doing prom this year, the senior dinner dance, so certainly involved and visible with the kids in the district, for sure. So to briefly talk about just COVID, and the reason for that is it was kind of part of the driving force behind implementing the new standards that I'll talk about in a little bit. I don't think it's a secret to say that, there was a decline in the activity with our kids, from shutting down school to a hybrid schedule, and then just trying to get back into a solid routine coming back from COVID. I think if you saw a PE class 3-4 years ago compared to now, you would see a huge impact or a huge improvement, a lot more activity going on, and kids, not just hanging out in the bleachers and, trying to pull them off and get them to do something. And it wasn't necessarily because they didn't want to, it was just, once you get out of a good routine, it can be tough to get back in. There was certainly a social emotional impact as well, on everybody, and particularly the kids here at school. So a big part of the new standards and the PE curriculum that we have touches on the social emotional impact of the kids as well. So I won't get into a lot of detail necessarily. I'm not going to read all these the standards and everything. I did provide a link to them in the last slide, but just to show that the difference between the old standards and the new standards really shows how much focus and emphasis there is on the whole child and their overall well-being. It's not just about physical fitness and just the resources that the kids have available to them. It's learning lifelong skills. You see the term physical literacy in quotes up there, and it's really about teaching kids the skills and knowledge so that they can competently and confidently apply those skills, now, graduation or after graduation, and for the rest of their lives, and that will benefit their overall health and well-being. So just a quick comparison of the old standards and new standards. With the old standards having a strong focus on sport-specific skills, it's not gym class anymore, right? We really want to talk about how it's physical education, and there is that focus on physical literacy and lifelong movement. There was really no emphasis on the social emotional learning as there is now. The old standards really limited the personalization, where we offer kids a lot of different opportunities now, and we're fortunate enough to have different facilities here and equipment that the kids have, can take advantage of and utilize to contribute to that, as well as traditional fitness testing. We don't grade kids on how many sit-ups and push-ups they can do and how fast they can run the mile. We certainly want to see those improvements, but it's teaching those kids what they can do to improve and how they can improve those different health components. So it really encourages the wellness-based assessments. So here are the new standards. Again, I won't necessarily go through all of them, but in the old standards, you'd see how it's really just students being given the knowledge, about personal fitness, and now it's more about how can you demonstrate it, how can you apply this knowledge to your everyday life and your activities that you participate in, exhibiting responsible and social behavior, and certainly recognizing the value of overall wellness, enjoyment, challenge. I think, again, going back to COVID, I think one thing it really taught a lot of people was the importance of staying healthy, movement, getting outside. It's not just about playing sports, it's about being healthy, it's about moving, it's about being involved in activities, and these standards really mean a lot of that. Here are just a list of some expectations, lifelong expectations and practices. Again, what we really want our kids to do is to bring the knowledge with them and the skills with them post-graduation, and for lifelong overall fitness and wellness. So you'll see up there, adapting to multiple environments, again, talking about different options that kids have, demonstrating commitment to safety, using motivational strategies. So it's not just participating in sports, it's everything that we want our kids to learn. And, I'll relate it to, the district's mission of, creating opportunities for kids to be confident, lifelong learners. And physical education is a curriculum that can certainly meet that for sure. So here are just some examples of, some units and activities you might see at different grade levels, different buildings. At the primary school, kindergarten center, excuse me, you see a lot of activities that just get kids moving. And you could go to a class and you might think it's just organized chaos, but kids are learning, kids are moving, kids are learning how to use their body. It's all about, they're learning how to use their body, their spatial awareness, things like that, while also developing some skills, your throwing skills, kicking skills, that relate to a number of sports. They have the little rock climbing wall over there at the kindergarten center, and then of course I had to put the parachute on there. I think that's everybody's favorite in elementary school. So, once you get to the 4 or 5 building, the kids start learning a little bit more about sports. The rules and positions in different sports, certainly the skills, team building, communication, things like that. A lot of the conversations I have with elementary teachers, especially at that level, is, aligning a lot of those units with, sports seasons or rec programs that are going on. If you're coming in the basketball season, then, I certainly encourage the PE teachers to run a basketball unit, get the kids interested in the sport at that time. And it really just, it kind of helps supplement, those skills as well. And then, secondary level, yes, we have the team sports and we promote the cross country and track and field. Again, our kids are fortunate enough to have those resources and facilities available to them. The pool is certainly at the top of that list, I think, in terms of giving kids a unique opportunity to participate there. And then, again, at the high school, we certainly have our team sports, but a lot of our lifelong activities. Jacoby even mentioned, being in the wrestling room and the fitness center, and you walk in there this week and kids are playing cornhole games. But again, that's an activity that kids can do for the rest of their life. And you could do it at the elementary level, and you can teach kids how to keep score. So you add that math component, and so there's a lot going on here in the phys ed department. Some examples. In terms of the curriculum, looking at physical fitness. Again, I talked about at the lower levels, kids are just learning how to move their bodies or learning different exercises, spatial awareness. So kids are just, basic motor skills, jumping, balancing and running races. Getting to the middle school, I mentioned participating and completing fitness tests, but it's less about grading the kids on how well they perform in those, but more so how they improve and how they can improve, being able to reflect on their scores, develop personalized fitness goals, and then certainly at the high school creating some individualized plans. And Zero Block is a big part of that as well. But the fitness center is always an option to our kids, yoga on the smart board, and then again the recreational activities that the kids have the opportunity to participate in. So here's just, again, just a brief kind of synopsis of this or summary of this, just to show that the progression of, each standard, from kindergarten all the way up, and it's really broken into different sports skills and games, but also dance and movement, fitness activities, lifetime activities, and again, you'll see just, again, the progression. And this really helps allow us and guides us as a department to create a curriculum based on what the kids are supposed to know at the end of each grade level. So the social emotional learning, again, plays a big part, and this was implemented into the new standards as well, where kids are learning self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, responsible decision-making. And I think if people see, social emotional learning, they might think, it has to do with just mindfulness, and it is part of that, but a lot of it is just building confidence through physical activity. We might have a lot of kids that, don't want to participate in team sports, don't really have a lot of success in team sports, but they can build a lot of confidence going into the fitness room, finding different ways, and that's a big part of offering kids different opportunities, and providing just more opportunities for them to be successful. developing teamwork and leadership skills, learning how to handle stress and emotions through conflict resolution. You might see that a little bit at the, the elementary level. Kids hate to lose or get tagged out or anything, but, being able to handle your emotions and stress, and then certainly improving focus and well-being and physical activity is a big contributor to that. Again, Mike, you can go through these. I shared the link to these standards. Getting into the elective courses that we've offered over the last couple years, Zero Block being a big one. It's very popular. It's early in the morning. Some of the kids in the picture might be half asleep still, but they usually get through it. Last year, aquatics, we offered an aquatics course for our high school students to where they could even get a lifeguard certification by the end of the course. It didn't fit into the schedule necessarily for this year, but certainly, keeping it as an option, and if it does fit in the future. And then just this past year, we added Tiger Fit at the middle school, working with Mr. Woody over there and a couple of the PE teachers over there to kind of add it as a modified strength and conditioning class, I guess, if you want to say that. And Mike, if you go to the next picture, you'll see some pictures from that class. And we kind of look at it as almost like a prerequisite going into the high school, learning different strength and conditioning movements. And there's not a ton of free weights over there, but it incorporates a lot of functional fitness and core movement and just body weight exercise, and just getting the kids interested, but also teaching them the skills and movements that they would need for a strength conditioning class over here. If you want to go back, Mike, I'll turn it over to these guys, and then I'll get into the health for a little bit. But again, I have Mr. Chris Duty here, who's been running the Zero Block for the last few years, and I have Catherine Cheney and Mason Lurkies to talk about their experience in the Zero Block.
How you doing, guys? So one thing I just want to make note of, I think here we have about a 99.9% engagement during phys ed, and talking to other high school phys ed teachers, that's not the case everywhere. And I think first off, it's because of, we have great students here. Second off, I think we do give them some options with the traditional sports and non-traditional sports and the weight room as well. So it's, I'm very fortunate to be here where, students want to be a part of it. I'll be short and sweet here before I introduce these guys, but when we first started Zero Block about 3 years ago, I would say it was about 85 to 90% just athletes. And I think over the years, it's kind of transformed into more of a diverse group, more athletes and non-athletes working together. So that's been really cool to see. And I think based on that unique structure of the class, that, kind of seeing, we keep track of their weights each day. And I think they kind of see that progress, and it kind of shows them how, the consistent work ethic really transforms to success. So I think they've been able to develop some discipline, resiliency, and some confidence. And, when Coach Carpenter asked me to bring in 2 students to a board meeting at 6:30 on a Tuesday night, sometimes it's not always easy, and I thought I might have some trouble finding that. And these were the first 2 kids that I talked to, and they said, absolutely, Coach, any need will be there. So over here I have Mason Lurkies and Catherine Cheney. Mason, if you want to kind of give your unique perspective.
Thanks, Coach. Good evening. My name is Mason Lurkies, as many of you know, because I've been here before. So I just started doing Zero Block I started beginning of this year around Columbus Day when I started working at an internship at Fort Miller because I had to leave halfway through the day to make sure I got to work on time. So this was a great opportunity not just to stay active, but also fulfill that gym requirement that I still needed to graduate. It is also, like Coach mentioned, a great way to build character because waking up sucks, getting there early sucks, but once you're done, you feel great about yourself, you feel great about what you've accomplished, and you can look, and even not necessarily the end of the year, within a couple weeks and see the progress you've been making, and it's a great feeling, and all the people there want it, and for something like that early, you got to be there, you got to have the drive and determination to do it. And so it's a great program, and I would recommend it to any athlete or non-athlete who's looking to improve themselves. So, yeah.
Hello, my name is Catherine Cheney, for those of you that don't know, and I'm a senior here at Hudson Falls. And for the past 2 years, I've been a part of Zero Block, and it's been one of the best experiences, honestly. I've always been someone who likes to challenge myself, and Zero Block's given me the structure and the support to do that. It sucks getting up in the morning, but it is always worth it. It's worth it to see that progress. I pushed past limits I didn't think I could do, set personal records, and I've beat them, but it's more than just the numbers on the bar. Like, seeing that progress is really rewarding. Being in the weight room before school starts, it builds like a community with all of us. Like, might not always get along like outside of school, but when you're there, everybody's kind of like a tight-knit group together. And it sets a really good mood for the rest of our day, gives us a good start to the day, so.
Thank you. Any questions for those of us?
I do.
Okay.
So, do you guys have like a favorite movement? Like when we have workout of the day, there's movements that the whole class will be like, ugh. And then there's other ones that everyone's like, ooh, yoo-hoo. Like, what do you like that you never imagined you would be doing?
If I had to say my favorite would probably be either squat or bench.
Right?
Mine's bench.
Yeah, right.
Catherine, by the way, so she first got into Zero Block because she was in a normal phys ed class, and we had meter boards where if you could bench 65 pounds 5 times, you get your name on there. And she was working to get her way up there. Finally she did, and then the next day she's like, Coach, I think next year I want to do Zero Block. And now she's so that was 65 pounds for 5 reps. Now she's close to getting 135 pounds for 1 rep.
Dang!
And I don't know if there's a girl in school that can do 135 pounds, so she's right there.
So do you usually create like a program for them that's different every day, or they just kind of go in and use the weights to do whatever they
Yeah, so we create, have a workout sheet for all of them, and they're kind of colored groups, so I know, the green group is gonna start on the bench press, the red group is gonna start on the squat rack, so on and so forth. We put a 6-minute mark, we have a little clock up there, so every 6 minutes they're rotating to the next spot. Like I said, they keep track of all their weights, so it's been fun. And it's cool to see, especially the kids that have been here for 2 years, it's good to see where their weights are now compared to where they were 400 days ago, or the previous school year, and just kind of seeing that progress.
And is it 9 through 12 can do it? Or?
For the most part, it's 11 and 12, depending on schedule. Sometimes we'll sneak a sophomore in there, but usually it's the upperclassmen. It's easier for them because usually they're driving to school.
So I just have 2 more follow-up questions. Anybody else? Okay. So my first one is, do you see yourself pursuing weightlifting fitness when you get out of high school? You like it that much? When you get out of high school, would you sign up at a gym specifically looking for weightlifting opportunities?
Yeah, I'm part of one right now, actually.
Where?
It's at McDonald's, by Little Caesars.
Good for you! Love that term for you. And then my last and final question is, how much is nutrition playing a part in the curriculum? Or is that, if this is just your body and how it works versus nutrition would be under the health classes or something like that?
I'll touch base on that. So for the most part, we want to, if I see the kids kind of really getting engaged with it and they're really trying to change their bodies, then I'll kind of have those personal conversations piece with them. So we don't really handle the nutrition piece directly in Zero Block, but if I see a kid that is really excited about changing their body, trying to change their physique, and really pushing to get to the max level of fitness, and we'll kind of have those little personal conversations. But I think that would be a great idea to maybe implement some nutrition pieces into that, for sure.
And a lot of that would be, I talked about in health.
Like in health?
Yeah. Yep. So I can finish that up.
Before we move on from coach duty, I just want to say, high school PE engagement really has changed over the past 2 years. 180 degrees in the past 2 years within the gym.
It's a full team, we got a great team staff here, like I said, we have great kids here, so.
I do have a question. So regarding the fact that you're saying mostly 11th and 12th graders with some sophomores, would it be something that we could add into a curriculum for our 9 through 12? Would that be part of like a credit for them to be able to do the zero block as part of our
So
PE
so the
requirement?
students who are in it now, they're getting their PE credit out of the way. It's not, I wouldn't say it's blocked off from any grade levels, it's just that, the transportation piece is,
There's a transportation piece, and then there's really a limit of kids you can put in there, because we only offer one section of it. So you have to go along with your, the transportation piece, but it's also kids that have showed for 2 years, a very good standing in PE, whether they're athletes or non-athletes. If they've done really well in their freshman year and sophomore year, they certainly have that opportunity to sign up for zero block. Because, with it being capped, we want to make sure that the kids that are very well deserving have that opportunity to get in there, versus just opening up for everybody, especially when you have to put, a limited number on it. But that's why, again, going back to, the different opportunities and options that kids have just in a regular PE class. I believe the fitness room is always an option. The kids will meet in the gym, go through a full class warm-up, be introduced to the activity that they're doing today, and then some kids might opt to go to the fitness room for the last 20 minutes of class to get a workout in or whatever. But yeah, again, there's the tennis courts, and, obviously we have the gym, the track. Saw some kids out walking around today and taking advantage of the nice weather. So I think, and then adding in that Tiger Fit with the 8th grade, I think is probably a good step in that direction to get kids involved at that age, and then going into 9th and 10th grade for sure.
That's awesome.
So,
What time does it start?
6:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
I'll finish up here with just a few slides on the health education. Going back to our curriculum development, we've been using the national standards for health that really get into the health literacy piece, and really giving students the empowerment to make informed decisions. Talking about health class, there really is there's the strong parallel and relations, of course, with physical education in terms of, developing your physical, mental, emotional, and social health. But it really comes down to learning what resources you have available to you, the influences that are part of your life, and being able to take those influences, take those resources, and be able to make decisions for yourself that will, of course, improve your health and overall well-being. So just a quick summary list, I guess, of what those standards look like, and then the units of study, some topics that are covered. And one thing with health too is everything's always changing. Whether if it's nutrition, you see contradicting articles and research on nutrition. You see different research and articles on diseases and how to treat them and what you can do. Drug education, things like that. So it's really being able to understand what resources you have, how to interpret any of the information, and be able to make decisions that will impact your health in a positive way. And then, so on the bottom too, I just want to point out that the hands-only CPR, which is a requirement prior to graduation that kids learn hands-only CPR. So that's part of it. And it's not a certification. It's just simply, gaining the knowledge to be able to do that. Just some things that Ms. Letourneau shared with me that have been done in the health class. We talked a little bit today about social emotional learning, and she's got a couple of notes that kids wrote to their teachers expressing gratitude, and how they've had an impact on them and helped them, through their day. Couple other pictures. So on the one on the left, you can see a couple of girls walking down the hall with the beer goggles. So if you go down to any of the high school health classes here, you'll see a lot of times the kids are out in the hallway doing something, whether it's walking around with the beer goggles, doing a scavenger hunt, anything like that. Going to class, there's always hands-on activity. Kids are up moving around doing something. And then the one on the right is the kids making stress balls. It's part of their mental health and stress management lesson, so that was a good one as well. So moving forward, some ongoing training sessions and developing, updating our curriculum as we go. Our PE staff is actually attending a training this week on Friday, in adaptive PE, to, get ideas on increasing inclusivity in our classes, and working with our adaptive PE classes as well. And then one thing that we discussed recently too, in relation to developing the curriculum is some assessments. And I mentioned the wellness-based assessments, and some of the ideas that we've talked about are giving kids an opportunity to self-reflect, on their own physical fitness, their classes, and finding ways for themselves to develop their own life or fitness goals, whether it be short-term, long-term, and then even finding ways to tailor the curriculum to meet the needs of all of our students and their preferences. So, does anybody have any other questions for me? Okay.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
But I do.
No, all right.
So when I started here, kids in the elementary school, when our kids started in the school district, kids in the lower levels were getting 4 days of gym, and then standards and everything changed. What's like the average number of days a week that students in Hudson Falls are getting phys ed?
At the lower levels, 2. Middle school and high school, it's 3 every other week and 2 every other week. So it rotates. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep. Yep.
Other questions for Coach Carpenter or any of the other presenters out there? No.
All right. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Still with me, right?
Yes.
So last month, you had a copy of the procedure for a new athletic program at your seats. However, you didn't have a lot of time to digest it and look at it, so it's back on there. It's not something you have to vote on to approve. Just want to make sure that nobody saw any glaring omissions or glaring things that need to be changed on that. And thanks to Mike DiCaprio and Coach Carpenter for working on that, putting that together. It's what we have been doing for the most part, but it puts it in writing so that everybody can have access to it if and when you're looking to do something new. So just want to make sure there's maybe a nod of head of consensus that seems like an appropriate document for us to go forward with. All right, thank you. Kelly linked in the board meeting dates for everyone. Kelly, anything that we need to put?
The November board meeting next year falls on Veterans Day, so our thought was to move it to Monday, unless anybody is opposed to that. That was our one difference from our norm. So it'd be Monday, November 10th.
Or if folks want to be here on Tuesday, the 11th, that is a holiday.
No way.
And that's what Kelly and I did speak about, so if you're good with the 10th, then that's what we'll have. And then the other was, we've been doing it, will that be probably our 4th year?
Yeah.
So I think in my 2nd year here, we made it so that the budget hearing and the May meeting were on the same evening, because previous to that, I think you guys were coming 2 nights in a row. We can accomplish them both in the same evening. That's worked out for us so far, so as long as you guys are still good with that system, that's the other one that doesn't follow our normal pattern. Good enough? All right. I'm going to click back. Tiger Den Cafe. Is there anybody who did not see that video from Channel 10 News?
So I saw it. My mom, my 70-something-year-old mother called me and was like, oh, you guys are doing such a good job at Hudson Falls. Look at this thing on Channel 10. So, well done.
I'd like to, it's about 2 minutes. I do want to play it. If you click it. Oh, if we don't have sound. We'll see. If we don't have sound, we won't watch the video in silence.
Can't help with that.
Yeah. And thanks to Jess for pinch hitting for Brett tonight on the system here.
Yeah, I don't think it does have sound. I couldn't.
Boy and a small child. I decided it was
So if you haven't had an opportunity to watch that,
try and go to
yeah, it's
school.
coming through those speakers.
When things settled down, I told
We have to
myself
watch
this time would be
it
different.
makes us watch
I
the commercial
transferred my
every time.
past credits to University of Phoenix, and didn't have to repeat courses. Because I
Just
transferred
pull up
prior
that.
eligible
It's worth-
credits, I
it's
was
worth
able to
seeing.
graduate 6 months
They did a really
sooner.
nice job
It's never
featuring
too late
kids and
to bet on
interviewing the
yourself
kids.
and go back to school.
So it's not there, Jess. It's coming through the ceiling speakers.
At Hudson Falls High School, the morning rush taking on a whole new meaning. Students running their own cafe, learning valuable skills in a classroom like no other.
News 10 ABC's Vanessa Blasi getting a first-hand look at this student-led operation and how it's helping them achieve their dreams.
That'll be $2, please.
Behind the counter, mornings can get busy at the Tiger Den Cafe.
My job is I like doing counting money and talking to other people.
And I do the cleanup. Usually I clean the coffee so it won't get too greasy and messy. And I usually do deliveries.
It's all a team effort made up of about 19 teenagers with learning disabilities.
There's a 10. There's a 10? So $3.50. We're going to minus the 10. How much do we give back? $6.50. Got it.
I used to not know how to do money, but since when we started the cart, I noticed myself that I got very better at it.
Every Friday morning, the student-run cafe opens to both students and staff. That's when orders and deliveries start to pick up.
Ooh, we usually get a lot of people.
How many deliveries do you make in a day?
Usually 2 actually, yeah.
Where are those deliveries to? Check it out. Classrooms and offices just like this one, all inside Hudson Falls High School.
Fine, thank you.
You're welcome.
$6.50, ma'am. Thank you, sir. You're welcome. Thank you.
Profits and tips like that all go towards transforming this classroom into their very own make-believe apartment.
We thought that one thing that would be really good is to try to create an environment that is hands-on for them. How do you wash clothes? How do you do dishes? How do you keep house?
If we're all alone growing up without our folks or anything, we need to know how to take care of ourselves.
Until real life kicks in, the cart is motivating them to reach for the stars.
It's inspiring me when I graduate, I'm going to start on my own little coffee cart.
And it looks like Elizabeth is on her way. Reporting in Hudson Falls, Vanessa Blasi, News 10, ABC.
What a wonderful program. We wish them all of the success in their business there.
Yes, so great. If you get a chance to watch it again, if you couldn't hear it, they just did a really nice job. So I appreciate Channel 10 coming out. Appreciate the kids and the teachers that put that on every week for a couple of reasons, because it's great for the kids and because there really are some nice snacks to get there. There's one thing that was maybe misrepresented there. Students cannot buy from the cart because that violates school lunch regulations. So it's staff only. I think we might have some students who were sneaking in there a few times here and again, but for the most part, it's staff only.
That was Ms. Kelly LeMay, the teacher.
Who was that?
Ms. LeMay, Kelly LeMay is the teacher that was featured in that. That's her classroom.
And I think that story's from last week. So it'll be open again this Friday. If you're around Friday, they start at, what, they start? 10:30 to 12:30. You can get let in through the front as board members, and they're right outside here in the National Honor Society lunch space on the carpeted area. So they love to see people. They interact with everybody. It makes a lot of people's day around here, students and staff, to see that happening. So congratulations to them. Moving on, so the last item on my, I know I'm long today, is data presentation. That's a link to the information I sent out on Friday. There were some questions that came in, and Mike's going to address those for the group. Kind of the same policy we always follow on that, or procedure we always follow on that, where if a question comes in, we try to answer it back to the full board. What I would just point back to is we shared a data menu last month and said if there were specific things that folks wanted to see, please let us know. So about a week and a half ago, Mike and I hadn't heard back, so we went through and put some things together for you to kind of get the ball rolling and to start the conversations so that you guys had some data in front of you. So I'll turn it over to Mike and let him go through the questions that were asked.
Yeah, sure. They came from Mrs. Andrukowicz and Mrs. Borland as well. Yeah, thank you. Is that all right? That's a good one. They came from Mrs. Andrukowicz and Mrs. Borland. So the intent was, when we got together a week or two ago, let's just show them something, or what this data menu could be, what we could be presenting. So Dan's phrasing was, show them who we are and show them how we do. Or show them who we are and show them what our outcomes are. So the document that was shared with you, that snapshot 2025, started out really just as a snapshot. These are our enrollment numbers for now. This is our demographics. This is our outcomes from last year. I got a few questions from Heidi, so I'll go through those. But basically what happened just today was that document turned into not just a snapshot, but let me show you 3 years, let me show you 5 years, let me show you 10 years, something like that. You all have Heidi's questions. Apologies for printing her words without her permission.
Oh, no, it's all good.
I know we try to address any board members' questions, we try to address with the entire board. So first of all, students with disabilities graduation rate hovering just below 50%. So that's a tab on there. You can see that next to grad rate. There's a special ed outcomes. It started out as a 1-year thing. I turned it into, I think, a 10-year thing. So you can see our high school 4-year special ed outcomes. That does not include students who might have graduated after 5 years or graduated after 6 years, but you can see everything else in terms of outcomes for those students. All of our accountability measures, when we get put on lists, red checks, green checks, red X's, all of that is based on a 4-year number. So all of my work is always based on a 4-year number. But that was a specific question. What happens to our special ed? If our special ed graduation rate is around 50%, what are the other outcomes? So that's there for you. Our ELA grades hovering just around 30% from grades 3 through 8. How does that compare to other schools? It seems low. Yes, it's lower, no matter how you slice it. In the past, I've done comparisons to Washington County, and there are 10 districts in Washington County where 95% of the time we're in the bottom 7, 8, 9, or 10. We're of the lower third. I don't know how to describe that. Mr. Ward has asked me a few times to do it compared to Foothills as well, the Foothills Council, so compare it to who we compete against. Same result. We're at the bottom ranks there. And on each of those tabs, you can also see how New York overall did. So you can see New York is as well higher. And that's all of New York. That's, including your Big Five and your boroughs down the city. The easy one, maybe the good news of this, the silver lining one, is that both Mrs. Andrikovic and Mrs. Borlang pointed out they noticed the 8th grade math proficiency rates were incredibly low. That's because we skim off all of the higher performing 8th graders and we put them in a Regents course. They don't have to take both exams. So all of the students who would be 3s and 4s on our 8th grade test are passing the Regents. So that's true across the board. That's common. That probably matches every other district around, whether it's here, in the county, in the state, whatever it happens to be.
Not to interrupt what
Sure,
you were
please.
saying, but that was one of my follow-up questions when you said that was, so this New York column that we see, the same thing is happening in middle school where those are being skimmed off and put into the regions as well, right?
Everywhere is, yeah. Yeah, pretty much everywhere. I can't imagine there's a school left that doesn't skim off some kids and put them in.
If there is, it's very few.
We're doing it completely. There are many districts would be pulling off one section because of master schedule challenges. We're pulling out, is it 2 sections? 3? It's not 4 sections. 3 or
You got the man right there. 3.
3, right? 3 sections, so 60 to 90 kids. Sorry to put you on the spot. Yeah?
But the proficiency here.
The 41.
Should directly compare to the 41, 5% to 41.
Yeah,
They're
I'll go with
doing
that.
the same thing that we're doing.
Right, we're still not in great standing. I think that's the question you're asking. Yes, it's still something to be concerned about.
Now, I did reply to your email that's not in here. well, then what's the outcome of all of our 8th grade regents? And that is 90 to 100% pass every year. Like the kids that go in that, we have a few kids that have failed historically, but it's 90 to 100% pass rate of those kids. Because yours was related to prep for high school.
Right.
And then standard for proficiency is that master or just average passing. So maybe it's an in the weeds answer, but there's no passing or failing on the 3-8 tests. You don't pass or fail. It's not like a 65. It's a 1, 2, 3, or 4, and generally you're looking for a 3 or 4. That's what most people would say is passing, but that's not technically right. A 3 is this student at their age meets those grade level standards.
So I guess what that question was really getting to in my head was, you hear the horror stories about people graduating and not being able to read. Like 30% is
30%.
Less than a third of kids in that grade can read. Are you saying on grade level?
On grade level. That's the qualifier you have to put there. And I'm not gonna try to sugarcoat it, but people would say that New York standards are higher than average, coming out of Common Core, whatever you want to say about that. According to New York standards, we have a third of our kids who can match the grade level standard. Those were Heidi's questions. Mrs. Borlang was the one who asked about 8th grade math as well, and asked for a longer period of time. So where I could, on short notice, I added in a stretch of time. But also, I guess, treat this as proof of concept. You have the data menu. If there are things on there that you'd like to see blown out like this, I'm happy to work on it.
So I don't know if there's questions, but I have a couple of comments about it. So that you can see, if you're looking at the 10-year trends, and some folks have been here a long time, so they've seen it. Mrs. Borling's relatively new to the board, but we have consistently been in that bottom third of the county, and now this year we've been identified as being in the bottom 10% of the state. So there's work to be done. That's where my comments come in. The good part about that is there's work that's been being done. You've been hearing about it for the last 2 or 3 years, talking about some of the direct reading instruction that's happening at the middle school, talking about changes to schedules, providing more opportunities for kids to have academic choices here at the high school, and most recently looking at mapping curricula at the high school. There's a lot of work that has to be done to improve what happens instructionally so we can have better outcomes for young people. And you folks sit on different committees and you hear from different people. What I would say is that we're trying to make thoughtful change, but any change is difficult for some people. So when you hear from folks who are sometimes concerned about change and how that's happening, I would say that this is proof that we need to make some change for our kids. And I'm not calling anybody out or saying anybody's done anything wrong. I'm just saying this is data that shows 10 years of things not happening the way we'd like them to happen for our students, and that necessitates some change. And sometimes that's large change, and that's difficult for folks. I just want to make sure I said those comments. But if you have questions about other things or for Mike, or if you have items that you'd like to see, next meeting is pretty full because we have folks coming to executive session to do 10-year reports. But if there's specific data that you need to see by next meeting, knowing that in the next week or so is a lot easier to have it ready for the next board meeting than if we hear about it the week before or a couple days before, because there's some work involved in putting it together.
Can I throw something out there?
Sure.
Would you mind pushing out the menu again?
Yep.
Because I brought that all apart, and this was super helpful, so I would be happy
To visualize it, yeah.
Yep. And if there's something, and just to go back to the last meeting, if there's something that doesn't appear to be on the menu that you think should be, also tell us that. We're not trying to keep any data from anybody. We sat, we made a list. I think we pulled Kevin in to talk about our list at one point, and that's what you have as far as the data menu piece goes. All right. I think that was all of my items, President Gullis. I did my best.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Ward? Heidi? Here.
I think I'm done for now, to be continued.
Okay. Well, that concludes the superintendent's report. Move this to committees. We'll start with personnel. Mr. Kamini?
This month, we have 3 retirees, the medical director, Dr. Robert Nielsen, food service, Karen Chandler, and Rhonda, teaching assistant, Rhonda Prater, okay. All right. And other than that, the summer school hires are started, and pretty much routine after that.
Okay.
So if anybody has any questions.
Nope, I think the other thing is Heidi wanted to abstain to the line item.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So any questions for Bill?
She's not here, so she's not going to vote at all.
Okay, by consent, that carries.
You're going to mark Heidi down?
Yeah, I did.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So that moves us to athletics. Do you want to touch base on that?
So I was not at athletics because I was in Albany, but we're lucky that we have Coach Carpenter here.
Stuck around. I thought this was going to be here, but I left the notes and everything.
He was supposed to, something came up at work for him.
Yeah, just make sure you got the green.
So, Mr. Ward, I believe you had asked if the board had any question about that, the program procedure. Okay. So at the last meeting, I know Mike brought up the postseason, any of the kids and teams that we had going into the postseason. The winter postseason has now wrapped up. It wrapped up last week. Just to provide an update on a few, the Adirondack United, the girls hockey team, won their second straight NISFA championship over the break. We still do have one participant on that team who's only a junior, so we have another year. And I actually had a conversation yesterday with one of the other ADs about one of the coaches who has access to participation numbers in the youth hockey leagues, and to see what Hudson Falls students we may have coming up through those programs, to see if we'll continue to have participants in that in the hockey. Justin Mullis was a finalist at the NISFA wrestling tournament. Made it all the way through to the state final. Came in second place. Had a great tournament, great match. And then boys basketball reached the sectional semifinals last week. Lost a close game to Catholic Central. Spring JV and varsity practices starting up next week. Registration numbers right now look really good for all of our programs. Modified practices will begin on Monday, March 31st. Same thing, registration numbers looking really good right now for all of our programs. We did have a discussion about football for the fall 2025, looking to return to playing a varsity schedule while playing down in classification, believing that this would be an appropriate step to take, next step, as we do rebuild our program. I did speak with a couple members of the Section 2 football committee to see if this was a possible opportunity, and I was told and assured that this was not something that was unprecedented. The teams have done that before in the past as they rebuilt their programs to get back into a varsity schedule, but also while maintaining some competitiveness and playing at an appropriate level. So. I do have one other update. I did actually receive an inquiry about past athletic achievements, particularly about the championship years on the banners, the new banners that we got. When we got those new banners, they were designed with the available records that I had. So anything that was taken down was replaced. Any years that were taken down, same numbers were up. I got a little bit of background information about why previous years, 60, 70, 80 years ago, why they weren't on there. But certainly exploring some ideas, ways to maybe recognize even some older achievements that predate those banners, and plan to discuss at the next athletic committee meeting.
I'm going to ask the question. So I know the answer, but can you provide to the board the reason why maybe anything prior to 1970 isn't on there?
So what I was told, I don't know if this is 100%, but what I was told is that when they built the new gym, which I believe was 2000-ish, they got new banners, and the decision was made to start with the years that they started winning Foothills championships. Previous to that was Northern Athletic, and those championships went back to the 30s and 40s, and they didn't really know where they would have a cutoff, so they decided to start with the Foothills, is what I was told. And I believe that makes sense, but that's the reason that I heard.
So we did not delete any banners or any years. When Ryan and I started and we bought new banners, we just replaced them in kind. Because I think one of the comments that Ryan heard and that I heard is, what happened to all those banners? They weren't here when we got here. But again, we're interested in recognizing our athletes even from long ago. It's just, we need to have the information and do it in a way that makes sense for the board and for our community.
Yep. Any questions?
So when we do football next year, is that going to be just Hudson Falls or Hudson Falls and Fort Edward?
It'll be Hudson Falls, Fort Edward again.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, no, we've already approved that merger, and it's been approved by Section 2.
I wasn't sure how it was impacted by not having a season this year.
We still had, the thing is, we still had great participation numbers. We had, the same numbers as a lot of other schools. It was more the fact that a high percentage of those were underclassmen that didn't have high school experience.
Gotcha.
So, yep. Okay, thank you.
Ryan, have we done any research on like the numbers for the football program as far as maybe JV as well, or are we looking
So
at?
I do have a list.
Okay.
So I do have a list of the kids that participated last year and who would be coming into this year, if everybody was to return. Off the top of my head, I want to say high 30s, 40 kids, and that includes any 8th graders that would be coming into their freshman year. So anybody that's obviously moving up in a year.
40 is very encouraging.
Yeah. Last year, we did the same thing last year, or going into last year. We unfortunately had a lot of kids that actually moved out of the district. A lot of kids that played modified 2 years ago that we didn't have in coming up in 9th grade just because they had transferred out. So
The merger's been helpful with numbers.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you. Great. Okay. That concludes athletics. Move to audit. Mrs. Grimaldi.
Okay, so lots going on with audit again this month. I'll start with the treasurer's report for the month of January. We had $7.6 million in receipts and $4.9 million in disbursements, leaving a balance in the general fund of $8.1 million and a total cash on hand of $11.3 million. The appropriation status report is in your packet, as well as the revenue status report. There was some budget transfers. None of them individually are over our limit, so they don't need to be approved, but they're in there for your information. Monthly bills are also in your packet. We did have the internal audit finalized. You all have copies of that, I believe, at your seats. The only real findings was, and it wasn't really a new finding or anything, he just recited the what we had received as a finding in the external audit on the ECA, some procedures that need to be implemented in the extracurricular accounts and clubs. Those are things that we've already been putting in place and have been working with club advisors on trying to get the students doing profit and loss statements or, income statements to see what revenues are coming in and what expenditures that they have for those clubs. Really good thing for record keeping, and it's also a good opportunity for the kids to kind of learn that skill. So, yes,
These clubs have
student, like treasurers, where they're learning how to do that stuff? It's not just the teachers, it's the kids that are...
Right, yeah, so that's the idea, I think, is that the students are supposed to be learning to do that and creating those reports. I think it's probably a cooperative effort between, and I think there's probably some clubs that function more on with the students doing it versus some others that it's still in progress. So I think Kevin and his team's been working pretty hard to try to get them up to speed and make sure that that's all happening. And again, this is something he kind of recited it in the internal audit. It was already cited in the external audit, and they had been working through that. And are going to probably meet with advisors again to try to kind of reinforce what the expectation is there. Budget work, there's kind of, Kevin and his team have developed a conceptual pattern or plan for the budget. Kind of in a holding pattern now until the budget passes through the legislature, so just kind of waiting to see how that shakes out, and then we'll continue progressing with that. We do need to approve the legal ad for the 2025 budget. It has the hearing scheduled for May 12th and with the vote on May 20th. Also has the preposition for the 4 buses in there totaling not to exceed $760,000. More buses than we typically would put out for. Kind of preparing for a situation coming soon with electric buses potentially that, or as of right now, definitely, that would make it to a point when we can no longer get fossil fuel burning buses. So, and also there is, we need to do a approval of a resolution for corporate purchasing program, which is just the typical cafeteria purchasing that we do every year with BOCES. And I think that's it. Anything to add, Kevin?
Just one point of clarification, that the resolution includes 5 total buses. 466 and 130 passenger.
The amount was right.
And the amount's right, just to be crystal clear.
Thank you, yes.
Crystal clear.
Crystal clear, yeah. Appreciate that.
So we have a few resolutions. We just need a motion to accept the January's treasurer's report.
So moved. Second.
Amanda, seconded by Heidi. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Hudson Falls Central School District is in receipt of the 2024-2025 internal audit. Do we have a motion?
Second.
Okay, Megan and Amanda, all in favor? Opposed? That carries. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Hudson Falls Central School District approves the participation in the cooperative purchasing program for the 25-26 school year. Do we have a motion? Crystal, seconded by? Vince, all in favor? Opposed? That carries. And lastly, be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Hudson Falls Central School District approves the legal ad for the 2025-26 budget vote board election. Do we have a motion? Megan, seconded by Vince. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay. Transportation. Dr. Steele's not here.
Kevin, do you want to take transportation?
Absolutely. Kevin. Thank you.
So your DOT report for the month of February, for the month of February, we had 14 trips, transporting 226 students for roughly 349 miles. It's down from, as far as trips go, the number is down slightly from the month before, where we had 426 students and 1,756 miles. We did have one of our monitors that was out for some time due to injuries at home, returned from the workforce without any restrictions. And we've received notification a few weeks ago that one of our drivers will be out of work for some time due to a health concern. So we're filling in nicely at this point in time. We've got all the runs filled. One of the things that has come in is solving a little bit of a problem for us. We did find a company who would work on our lift. That all the area companies here said that they couldn't. So all the parts have been ordered, and it looks like that's going to be repaired rather than be replaced. So that's significant savings there. So, and that should be taking place over the next couple weeks. We did have somebody fill in the bus garage as a dispatcher for a few weeks as a routing clerk, and she did an excellent job. And then as we saved on one area, another area just came up in the last couple days. Basically all the electronics for our fueling system we're having issues with, and those fueling stations not only fuel the school buses, but also fuel many of the local municipalities around us. And basically what's occurring is that the system's going in and out, which can cause us problems because we bill back all those other municipalities for what's being used. So we've gone out, we've gotten a quote. It's a unique setup because that island, that service island was put in many years ago through GA Both, because they have the state contract when it comes to gas and diesel. So we're going back and forth to see what parts of it we're responsible for and what parts of it they may be responsible for. It's looking like most of it's going to be our responsibility. So it's a system that we're going to have to replace. And it's going to be, nothing's cheap with those. We're looking probably in the $30,000 to $35,000 range to replace that. So nice thing is, I believe it's going to be eligible for transportation aid, so we will get that back, but the problem is funding it. So, but then it'll be up and running for many years to come, unless we switch over everything to electric. So, so I believe that was all that was on. Yep, so the only other item is we're expecting within the next couple of weeks, one of our buses that we ordered last year is coming in. So we should be all set for the fleet that we ordered from last budget coming in this year. So.
Okay, any questions for Kevin? Includes transportation, moves us to buildings and grounds. Mrs. Barling?
Okay. Last month, Building and Grounds did not meet, but Mr. Manny did provide a written update on some of the items going on internally, one of which was the water sampling. Everything has now passed, so we're set on that. There's some boiler work going on that's under warranty. It's like anything with a new system. When you get it up and going, you work through the kinks. In-house work, paintings continuing. The vast majority of the painting's done. This is just some minor stuff that they're doing. They installed a new kiln at the middle school, and there are new water fountains which will undergo water sampling before they get put into service, but they're in the middle school and the high school. And I think that was pretty much it. Which our student liaisons already touched on was the school lighting in the gym is the only piece that remains for the energy performance contract. So that was it for internal stuff. The capital project, I know the last update that we had was that Phase 3 was nearing submission and that there were bids in progress on the other phases. I don't know if anything's...
Yep. Nothing monumental that's new. Just want to put out there that we do have a special meeting on the 18th. I should have the time in my head, sorry. 4 o'clock? 4 o'clock in my office to approve bids for Phase 1. Yep, submissions should still be on time based on talking with Steve 2 weeks ago because he was off last week.
And the only other thing that's kind of been outstanding, Kevin, I don't know if there were any updates on any of the property acquisition stuff, or if we're just status quo there.
Well, we received a note today. So it's still in the works. There's some concern about items on that property that belong to other people and getting them back to the other people. So we're gonna, within that note, he gives us some different options to try to help the individual out. So we're gonna sit down and discuss that, and we'll probably at the next B&G, we'll lay those out and make a plan to move forward, and then we'll go back over for a visit and try to try to help. The nice thing about that property is that that property has nothing to do with our large project that's coming now. It could be a future project, so we do have a little bit more leeway with that. And it's, you know, but I think we need to, we're looking to exhaust every option we can with that property, because it joins our school right there. So we gotta work through a couple of these things that have been requested and see if it's something we can do and then move forward.
And just if there's specific questions other than the general information, we should talk about that at the executive session because it has to do with negotiating the purchase of some real estate. So, general questions, fine. For public, specific questions should be an executive session.
So the only other thing was, there was linked the rendering of the district office. I do have some thoughts on that, but I can share them afterward. But if anyone wants to look at it and see what they think of it, it's up there for review and pleasure. That's all I had.
Yep, we do have one resolution for the pesticide application. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Hudson Falls Central School District approves the pesticide application for the 2025 season. Do we have a motion? Heidi, seconded by?
Second.
Crystal, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries. Okay. That moves us to policy. Mrs. Lynch.
Okay. We did meet this month, and there's a few things on here for us to go over. We have some Title IX rule changes. So the explanation behind that is the previous administration had made some Title IX rule changes to include additional language around gender identity, and the current administration has changed the rules back to remove that language. So we were directed immediately, like there was a policy pulse that said, do this right now, to go back to the policies that we had 4 years prior. So we are rescinding policy 3421, 7554, and 7555 that were adopted in November. And then we're going back to policies 3421, 2020, and 8130 to replace those. And then we have some first reads to go over. We have policy 7241, student directory information, and we're just updating that policy to match what's in our student handbooks right now. Then we have 5676, which is privacy and security for student data and teacher and principal data. So we're literally switching one word in this policy pretty much.
One title in that one,
A
one
title.
word in the next one.
And then in 7240, we are switching and to or. Any questions?
Do we need to do a motion on rescinding?
Yes.
So you heard the recommendations on rescinding policy 3421, policy 7554, policy 7555, and reverting back to policy 3421, 2020, and reverting back to...
Wait a minute, those numbers are the
Just
same.
for clarity, 2020 is the year.
Okay, and revert to policy 8130. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Seconded by? Crystal, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries.
And just for, again, crystal clarity, by administration, we mean the federal administration, in other words, the president,
Not you?
not Dan Ward.
Federal administration, yes.
Okay. And everything else was all first reads, correct? Okay. That concludes policy. That moves us to advocacy. Mrs. Andrew, please.
So the first thing on our agenda is, most of you know that I am a BOCES board member, also representing Hudson Falls. And so we have on here a nomination for Tom Roche. He would be representing Fort Edward School District, because you can only be representing, having one representative from a component district. But it was kind of like he was appointed because we had an opening on the board, and so this would be his year to rerun. So I'm moving him forward to this board to nominate him for the BOCES seat that he now holds. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them. He sits next to me. He's our advocacy liaison for the BOCES board. He's an absolute asset, so I highly recommend it.
Good enough. Full disclosure, I know Tom too. I worked with him in Fort Edward for several years.
Want to do the resolution on that?
Yeah, can do the resolution, yep.
Okay, so you heard Heidi's recommendation. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Hudson Falls Central School District approves the resolution to nominate Tom Roche for the 2025 BOCES Board of Education election. We have a motion.
So moved.
Amanda, seconded by?
Second.
Heidi, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That carries.
Okay, so a lot of this stuff I'm gonna have Crystal and Dan talk about. We did that on the 4th. And so I'll do the bullet points that I feel competent to speak about. The first is ASBA's meeting is coming up on the 20th. It's gonna be, the topic is budget and advocacy. It's always a really good, well, advocacy is my jam, so I really always think it's a really interesting one. It's maybe a little womp-womp this year, but I think it's going to be amazing. So anybody sign up that hasn't, that wants to go to that. Second, I'm going to make another plug for anybody who wants to volunteer for the K to 5 fun fair coming up in March. It'll be Sunday, March 30th from 10 to 2. They provide all of the field trips for UP K-5 and the ones, like the big ones, they supplement. They also provide in-school, extra special, like in-school, not really field trips, but special events like Opera to Go and authors coming in to talk about their books and things. And they really need volunteers to pull this off. It's a huge undertaking and it's their biggest fundraiser of the year. So if anybody knows anybody, you can find their sign-up link on their page. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dan.
Great. So, really nice experience for our FFA kids. I know I included in one of my weekly updates. We didn't take all the students, but we took a good group. It was also the first time that I think Mrs. Hogan had been to the Capitol. I sometimes forget that our students don't get to go and see that building and what's there and how that process operates. So I want to thank them for going. I want to thank Mrs. Hogan for putting the trip together, and Miss Hogan, our ag teacher, for taking the kids as well. They did a really nice job, and I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Carrie Warner, our assembly person, for inviting our FFA group to be on and represent the entire FFA for the state of New York and be recognized on the assembly floor. Pretty cool opportunity for them, and they did take a tour of the Capitol prior to being recognized on the floor, and then we all had lunch at some place called Bernie's Burgers or something in the concourse. So the kids got to see an awful lot. Foundation Aid look-back reports. You guys have had access to those for a while from me. Those are those reports that looks back over 15 years. You have the ones that Kevin put together for me a few months ago based on some craziness that I got myself involved in. Since then, we have received information on the entire state, so we have a 15-year look back on every school district in the whole state, which is 682, Kelly? School districts? 680. So that's been what I've been talking about. If you ever want to come and see that and have me talk you through it, I'm happy to do it and spend some time with you. It will make your blood boil as a Hudson Falls resident. The number, and you've heard me say it at a few meetings, for us, the amount of foundation aid that we have been shorted over the last 15 years is 83-point-something million dollars, almost $84 million that Hudson Falls has been shorted. And not to name names across the state or even around us, there are school districts that have been overfunded by tens of millions of dollars while we have been underfunded by tens of millions of dollars. And there's no rhyme or reason to that. And so part of the advocacy I've been doing, along with our WSHB partners, although many of them maybe aren't as enthused about me being at those meetings as they normally would be, is to say that we know that the legislature is going to advocate for more money to be added to the state budget. I'm saying at every one of those meetings, when you do so, could you please make some preference for school districts that have been historically underfunded over the last at least 5 years. Even in the last 5 years, our number is over $20 million that Hudson Falls has been shorted. And even in the last 5 years, there are schools near us and across the state that have been overfunded by $8, $10, $20 million. So it's eye-opening. It was eye-opening for every group I have talked to see that. So I'm hoping long-term that when they do address the foundation aid formula, that they do something that works for everyone and make sure there isn't specific districts that are just, for some reason, overlooked and not funded based on whatever that formula says is what somebody should get. There's my, I feel bad for the people who work near me because they've heard about that a lot for the last month to 6 weeks. We were down at the Capitol, the Wishby group, on the 4th. I got to see Brian Landsman there doing his job in a suit. I think he was in a suit that day.
That's what he wears, yeah.
Yeah, he was taking care of the governor's detail down there, had a lot of officers all over the place. It was packed. There was a lot of corrections officers down there due to the situation that's occurring with them, on top of the large group that's always there. We met with several senators and assembly people and just talked about our priorities, and I made sure that our Hudson Falls priorities were brought to the table as well. BOCES BOE representation and support, we took care of that, and I guess my speech on that is if we have people willing to fill those seats, boy, we ought to support them because it's hard to find folks to fill those seats. Electric bus meeting, we had that with our consultants. We went through the Hudson Falls situation there. We're moving along. They're on to their next task for us. Some key things to know. Right now with the electricity we have available in our service at the bus garage, we can power or charge 4 buses. We need a lot more than 4 to make our fleet run. And one little thing that I thought was interesting, and I know Jeff sits on the village board, but there's another angle to the advocacy towards maybe rolling back the electric bus mandate. Talking about the diesel school bus weighs about 10 tons per axle. An electric bus is about 14 tons on the front and 25 tons on the back. There's now been some research on what this will do to the roads in our communities and the cost that will be incurred by our communities to keep their roads up. So I just want to share a little bit. Normally a town's cost for paving a mile is $20,000 to $50,000 per mile, but it's about $550,000 per mile for reconstruction. What's being said by this transportation study done by the folks that talk about transportation in New York State is that because of the weight of the buses, you won't be looking at pavement maintenance, you'll be looking at pavement reconstruction. So, for example, they use Clarence, the town of Clarence in Erie County, 127 miles. So their costs will go up 12-fold from $665,000 to $8.5 million annually to upkeep their roads. That's a whole nother ball of wax. So we shared this with our legislators. This came to us after we were down there for Lobby Day. But that's a whole other thing that I hadn't thought of, what it's going to do to the roads. So
What weighs so much more?
the battery. The battery. Yeah, the battery and then the apparatus to hold the heavy battery. Yeah, so I'll share that with all of you so you can read the article. It's a one-pager. It talks about EV snowplows too, but I stay on the bus side of things. So there's my quick recounting of what's going on. Yeah, the PFAS, I did attend the meeting. I put that on my update to you folks as well. I did speak on behalf of the school district. I also used my knowledge of the Fort Edward School District to speak about the number of school children that are within close proximity to the village of Fort Edward. When you provide your public comments at this time, you're not supposed to direct them about any specific business or project. Apparently that does not help if and when the new law is challenged. So they're leaving their public comment period open, the village of Fort Edward, until their next meeting. At that time, I think they'll probably have a draft of the law and probably close the public comment period. But that's important, and I just spoke about doing anything we can do to make sure that our community is safe and healthy for the folks who live here, the students who go to school here, and the people that work here. Because the numbers, 2,200 students here, about 400 students down there, about 500 employees here, about 75 employees down there, plus all the residents that are living in those areas. And there's been an awful lot of abuse to the land on which these communities sit already, and anything we can do to prevent any more. I asked the village board to please to take that under consideration. That's what I had, sorry.
Yep.
A little long.
Perfect. Okay, any questions for Heidi or Dan? Okay. That concludes our committees. We do have two things for new business.
Did you have this one to me? Okay, if I just jump in?
Yeah, jump right in.
So you have a resolution that's new business for you tonight. Very briefly, just so you understand what you're approving or not approving, we are part of this group that basically signs off on contracts for us and lets us piggyback on other contracts. It goes back to Ed Law 2D, which you might have heard me talk about in the past. Basically, any computer system or computer app that we use in schools that accesses student information needs a contract signed off, that they will protect it, that they will make reparations if there's a leak, all these things. On this slide here, you can see if you click that to several things, there's a one-pager for parents that talks about all of the things that are in Ed Law 2D. But basically, anytime we are using an app or a computer system that accesses student information or teacher APPR information, but that's much, much smaller in scale, we have to have a contract with them. Currently, we are over 100 contracts. If you think about all the different things that your littles use on the Chromebooks, and they are different every single year as the kids get older, there's over 100 of them currently just in our district. And for the first couple of years of that, it was myself and Chris McPherson, mostly Chris McPherson, working out the kinks, going back and forth with all of these companies to try to figure it out, and then I would take it and I'd try to work with Larry a little bit to make sure it was right on our side of things. That's onerous. That's a burden. So a couple years ago, we turned that work over to BOCES, who offers that as a service, and they work with all the companies and they do all of the contracts on behalf of 31. It seems that that was onerous to them because they've turned it over to the RIC, which is a collection of BOCES down in Albany. And now the RICs have gotten together and they're doing it as a statewide contract piggybacking. And there are now other groups involved. This is a multi-state effort to solidify all of these contracts. It makes it really easy for us. We have a sign-in. It has all of our contracts there. I can go through a list of all the contracts that are available through this organization and just say, move it over to ours. We want that one too. So anybody who's in this group who's signed off on a contract, we can piggyback on that contract. The group down in Albany has asked the board to sign off on a resolution saying they agree to our participation. That's the long and short of it. Questions on that?
Is there a cost associated with this in addition to what we already pay for BOCES services? So this is part of this?
Yeah, there's a cost to the BOCES service, but there's not a cost in addition to that BOCES service. You got it.
Is it a significant cost?
I don't remember. I don't want to talk off the hip, but I can give you the cost. There was a cost to it. You wouldn't remember that one off the top of your head?
I don't know off the top of my head,
We'll get it.
Find out what that is.
We'll get it to you. A lot of duplicative work happening across the school districts and state agencies that being pulled into one spot.
We all use the same apps. We all use the same services.
Typically, how does this system work? Necessarily, but like if a teacher has an application that they want to use, they have to submit
Yes. Yes, we want them to. I want to be on the record as saying, yes, we want that all approved. We're also looking for consistency. I don't want 8 different teachers in 5th grade using 8 different things. That makes for 8 different experiences, sending them off to 6th grade. However, the detail of it is they can use anything as long as they're not submitting student information. There are plenty of apps you can use without sign-ins. So kids can do quizzes up on the smartboard without actually putting in their emails or anything like that. And those don't apply here.
Any questions for me?
Thanks.
We do have a resolution on that. You heard Mike's recommendation. Be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Hudson Falls Central School District approves the resolution regarding RIC 1 Risk Operations Center, The Rock. We have a motion. Vince, seconded by? Heidi, all in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay. So we do have a field trip request. That was submitted by Mr. and Mrs. Mazarak regarding the Class of 25 senior trip. That would be going to Six Flags New England on June 11th, 2025, approximately 90 students. If you had a chance to read like the prices and stuff down below, does anybody have any questions to that? No? As always, we like to approve these things. Okay. So, be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Hudson Falls Central School District approves the 12th grade field trip to Six Flags New England. Do we have a motion? Amanda, seconded by Crystal. All in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay, so we do have a need for executive session for the purpose of personnel.
Personnel, yep, to review the finalists for the assistant principal position.
Okay.
Also, progress towards tenure for a specific individual. Any specific questions on proper negotiations to purchase property within our school district? And pending litigation.
We do not have a need to vote on anything coming back in regular session, so everybody can leave for the evening if you'd like.
And we will not be coming back online. I just want to thank our students